Hello everybody and welcome back to the damn sofa, and that's the damn sofa, and that's my damn little sassy sidekick, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane, and my damn name's Paul. Today we're going to be continuing our discussion on this damn train wreck is all you can call it at this point. The Johnny Depp and Amber Heard defamation lawsuit that has been going on. Yeah, it's a train wreck from Trainwreck Central going to Trainwreck Destination. What we're going to focus on for this video is some of the testimony from the forensic psychologist who is specifically in this video talking about some of her the symptoms, the diagnosis, this kinds of stuff about Amber Heard. And then we're going to be looking at some other clips that maybe kind of coincide with some of these behaviors she is talking about with Amber. So on and so forth. So before we get started, remember this is the main channel that you are watching. Make sure you are subscribed if you want to be. If you don't want to be, I understand. And also, if you are not subscribed to the podcast channel, make sure you're subscribed to that one. I post like updates, shorter videos, go live, that kind of thing over there. So make sure you're subscribed to that one. All those links are down in the description below. And that's it. Thank you to everybody who makes this channel possible, the Sofa Squad possible. It is greatly appreciated. Y'all are an amazing community, and I love you to death for it, okay? So the structure of this video is going to be, we're going to look at some clips, and I'm just going to kind of make commentary along the way. Y'all ain't no doctor, ain't no lawyer and stuff, but I just like to comment on true crime, so that's that. I don't have a degree to speak on any of this stuff, and I don't try to pretend to be either. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump on into it.
How did you administer the MMPI-2 to Ms. Heard?
I provided her the test on an iPad. She essentially had her own little desk area and then an iPad. She hits start, it provides her with the instructions, and then it gives her 567 statements in order. For each one, she taps true or false.
I mean, my God, that sounds like a horrifying thing to have to take. It would be interesting to take it, honestly. I would love to do that. But the 500 things, I'm like, oh, God, it sounds completely grueling. So let's just go ahead and see what kind of results did this machine kick out.
What did you learn about Ms. Heard from the results of the MMPI-2?
I'm curious too. What did we learn? Did the machine just start a-smoking once she started a-tapping?
Quite a bit. I wrote up a 25-page interpretation outline. It has numerous scales. So one of the reasons I like this measure so much is that it can tell you so much about multiple different traits and tendencies and mental issues. One of the primary things I learned was that she had a very sophisticated way of minimizing any personal problems.
So there's something about the way the forensic psychologist speaks. Like, she could kind of deliver some kind of like scathing news to you or like insulting news. Like almost like if she was working behind a makeup counter somewhere, I could totally see her being like, thank you for shopping at the Clinique today. We have heard your request. We have looked over the entire brand. What we're going to go ahead and do now is go ahead and just suggest reconstructive surgery, but that is okay. That is fine. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and you would kind of feel like okay about that leaving this, right? And I almost feel like that is what she is talking, like that's kind of what she's saying here, right? But one thing in all seriousness that is interesting that I thought was like fascinating by listening to her talk, and also combining that, which is what we're going to kind of be doing in this video, and looking at these behaviors, is if you follow other cases here at the Sofa or other channels, whatever, and we look at the behavior of these people who are in these true crime headlines, that they have oftentimes way worse outcomes, right? Families are lost at the hands of these people and that kind of thing. And so hearing this person talk, this doctor, about the behavior of Amber and whatnot, I mean, honestly, especially if you've been following recent cases, Letitia Stalk, Anthony Todd, Lori Daybell, so much of this behavior is just like, oh, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Like, in my Sofa opinion, is very similar.
Some of the primary characteristics, and I'm going to try to condense 25 pages here, were essentially externalization of blame, tending to have a lot of inner hostility that is attempted to be controlled, a tendency to be very self-righteous, but to also deny that self-righteousness and to judge others critically against these sort of high standards for moral value, but also to deny doing that, essentially to claim that one is very non-judgmental and accepting, and yet very full of rage, really. And these aren't facts, but her scores essentially correlated, so they were consistent with other people who obtained these scores who have been shown through many, many, many studies to have these very specific traits.
Again, with this whole thing right here, first of all, I was like, are we talking about the comment section on social media? Are we talking about people? I mean, I was just like, this is so eerie, right? Because again, I mean, this is like completely dripping of Lori Daybell, if you know the case that I'm talking about. But this kind of stuff that fascinates me. This is one of the big draws to my attraction to true crime, is the psychology of it, that kind of a thing. And so hearing this kind of talk, it always fascinates me. One of the things that I'm like, if I could do it all over again type situation, I would probably go into something like this, like forensic psychology, something along this lines, because I find it very intriguing and interesting. I find a lot of forensic type stuff interesting. So again, with this right here, and then listening to some of those audio clips that we listened to, which we'll hear again, some of them, small clips to compare here in a little bit. I mean, we see this in this scenario, right? I mean, this couple, this meaning Johnny and Amber, just seemed like, such a, just add water for instant drama, instant fireworks, the whole 9 yards. So anyways, let's keep listening.
They may be self-indulgent, very self-centered. They could use manipulation tactics to try to get their needs met, very needy of attention, acceptance, approval. They tend to distance people who are close to them. Initially, they may seem very charming. They're very socially sophisticated, actually. That was a major component on there. They have a capacity to kind of offer some of their faults, but in a way, but only the ones that people think of lightly and can all relate to. And so they can present as very fair and balanced, but in actuality, they really might be very judgmental of others and unaware of problems in their behavior and their thinking.
Now, one thing I think is interesting when you hear her talking, or not just in this particular clip, but in other ones, but also this one, is the expressions on Amber's face throughout this entire hearing, right? This trial, whatever you want to call it. It's been so interesting, but especially here where she's talking, because Amber gets this very puckered look on her face, right? Now, also when Amber is writing and whatnot, now we've seen what, some of what Johnny's been doing. He's just been coloring, right? So I'm just like, he's been entertaining himself that way, it seems. I would love to know what she's doing over there. Like, what is she writing? Is she coloring too? Well, what does this say, right? But again, I just think some of her body language shows that. I was watching somebody had done a TikTok, and it's, I don't even know, it's in passing, but it was essentially someone, taking a clip of this here and putting it there, how TikToks are if you watch them, about the range of emotions and this and that. It was from another part of this that honestly I didn't find before I put this video together, but it was talking about that kind of range of emotions. And so I think we see that just in the facial expressions that they catch of her on camera here in the courtroom. And this is an arena, an area, a zone, a moment in time, if you will, that you would think somebody would be very, keeping it together. I am on camera. Let's reel it in. I am in this lawsuit. The public is looking at me. It ain't going good so far, right? So you'd think that it would be this, let's try and reel everything in. Even if I don't like what I'm hearing, let's keep it together. You know what I'm saying? But there doesn't seem to be that, or maybe this is that version. You know what I'm saying? And taking Amber and Johnny out of this, and even if you just look, I mean, y'all, I can imagine the descriptions they're describing here. I'm sure Hollywood is rampant with this level of borderline personality disorder. All this stuff right here, right? I mean, most of us can think of in our everyday lives as someone somewhere we've encountered, whether it's work, relationships, whatever, that matches this kind of stuff. I know some of us, we might have people currently in our lives that, been diagnosed with these kind of symptoms. It can be a complete struggle. So that's one thing that has been interesting to me, is to watching this play out. You know, unfortunately for them, it's been in a very public type arena for this, right? And it's unfortunate that it has played out in that way, in like this Hollywood spectacle or whatever. So anyways, that's it. Let's continue.
So after you provide the examination via the iPad, what do you do?
So once they've completed the test, you can have it scored by the computer immediately.
This is where I honestly thought she was going to be like, but I'm not going to lie, y'all. Amber's test, computer, it melted.
Ms. Heard had the clearest code type was 3.6, but then she also had some other code types that were less significant.
Y'all, if she said code 666 came up, I was like, I'm done. I am finished. I'm never watching another movie from Hollywood again, and I am not watching one more moment of this damn trial.
A lot of that anger is expressed in this code type. There can be actually a lot of cruelty, usually with people who are less powerful. Actually, when you see this code type, you want to, if you can, to follow up with subordinates, co-workers, people who may have observed their behavior more closely. The 3.6 code type is very concerned with their image, very attention-seeking, very prone to externalizing blame to a point where it's unclear whether they can even admit to themselves that they do have responsibility in certain areas.
Now, one thing I thought was interesting about this is how she begins off talking about the power thing and, you know, the weakness and all that kind of stuff. And I've talked about this before, but I thought this is a good zone to have it in, or no, a good moment to bring this up again. Okay, so many moons ago, I was an extra in that movie, Patch Adams. And I'm not trying to like brag about that or anything. I'm just using this as a sample because Robin Williams was the star of that movie. You know Robin Williams, major famous, right? Okay, so I got to meet him or be around him several times, right? Super nice guy, right? Was I hanging out having lunch with him? No, but just being on a set with him and in that environment of, you know, I mean, you're on a movie set, right? Whether you're the extra or the actress, I mean, it kind of sucks being there. Obviously, the major stars have a much better time. They get better treatment, but you're still all at the set. It's hot. It sucked. It was at UNC. It was outside. It was the middle of summer. Anyways, so he was super cool, right? Very nice to everybody. He would go talk to the extras. He would go to their holding area, talk to them, entertain them. Really went out of his way. He bopped around Chapel Hill, like he rode his bike around town. Like literally all these restaurants still have pictures of him up there, of him just kind of like going around town and going to meet people and have a hamburger. I mean, just like a super normal guy. Okay, so then there was other actresses, and mostly from what I heard, it was one actress. If you've seen the movie, you can probably piece it together as to who it was, who was not as famous. I don't think she ever really got as famous. And no one had anything nice to say. And on set, like she never came and talked to anybody. She never did anything like that, right? She just really just had kind of a negative attitude. And all I would see of her whenever I was sometimes around her was, you know, being like, how long do we have to be here? You know, when is the set over with? What do we go? You know, like that kind of a vibe. And so when I hear stuff like this, and it's like, you look at someone like Amber Heard versus Johnny. Johnny's mega famous. Amber Heard it's like, who is she again? You got to Google, like, what does she do? You know what I'm saying? That kind of a thing. And again, I'm sure this goes on in Hollywood so much, where you have like, obviously, mega famous nobodies who want this and will do anything to get here, right? Whatever they have to do at any cost, they probably don't care. And so take that away to, you know, think of your everyday business of here's the CEO and here's this person that wants to get their position and they don't have as much power. All that kind of stuff. Now, I'm not trying to say the CEO is always going to be nice, but you get the drift where I'm going. So I just really, that triggered that memory to come up of that, especially since this is a Hollywood thing too, right? So anyways, let's keep going.
This might be an appropriate time to describe a little bit about these personality disorders, because I think what you'll hear is that there's a lot of consistency there. So borderline personality disorder is a disorder of stability. It's instability, and it's instability in personal relationships. It's instability in their emotions. It's instability in their behavior. and it's instability in their sense of self and their identity.
So borderline personality disorder, this is one thing, obviously, she's talking about this. And this is where, I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, right? Because I don't think just because, say, this is what Amber Heard, you know, this is what she has and all this, it does not excuse the behavior that we have seen or whatever. And that goes for anything, right? Still, at the end of the day, though, I feel sorry for people who might have a situation like this going on, because it sounds so lonely and so polarizing, right? And so there is that. Again, does that give any kind of green light to, well, let me lash out at, you know, Johnny in this situation? Absolutely not. It sounds like just a very empty situation to be in.
Counteractive, right? So the thing these people fear most is being abandoned, but over time, the anger, the explosive anger that they show when somebody is needing space, or when somebody's really not doing anything wrong, because a lot of times they read into things that they perceive as being a slight to them or being somebody intending to harm them that actually isn't happening. They'll exaggerate it, and they'll explode. They'll react in this heightened manner that is just exhausting for their partners. Oftentimes their partners will try to make them happy at first and really allow themselves to be a punching bag, thinking that they can somehow solve this problem, that somehow they can make this better. And eventually it just overwhelms them.
Now, specifically with this, a key word in this whole little thing we just watched, this little clip, was the word exhausting, right? Again, if you've ever been around someone like this, it doesn't even have to necessarily be someone specifically diagnosed with this exact thing, right? But someone who fits this person, you know, some of these, they're checking the boxes off. It's exhausting. And to me, one thing I have gathered from Johnny, listening to his testimony, listening to, you know, the audio clippings, that kind of thing, is exhaustion. Complete exhaustion, right? Just being tired of it, you know, just tired with it. Look at how short-lived the marriage was, right? And I'm just trying to think back, I mean, even with my current partner, I'm just trying to think, if I was having that level of an argument with Matt in the first 15 months, I mean, there's no way. We've been together 6 years soon. There's no way now, right? If it was a regular basis, no, absolutely not. Watching and hearing that, I was like, oh my God, that is so exhausting. But once you're in it, you're in it. And if you've been around these people, then you know, just like she said, where it's like you find yourself, well, maybe we can get past this, maybe we can do this, that type thing. And so that's where I'm just like, oh yeah, these people are 100% exhausting. Psychic vampires is another word for it, you know what I mean? Where they drain every bit of life out of you.
And there was also an indication actually in Dr. Hughes's, Dr. Hughes is a forensic psychologist who had been appointed by Ms. Heard to conduct as an evaluation as well. In Ms. Hughes's interview of Ms. Heard disclosed that she had cut her arm in the past, which is a typical reactive type thing somebody with this diagnosis can do. It's one of the symptoms.
And see, that kind of thing right there that they're talking about, of that, you know, I cut myself, I did this, I did that, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of the evidence has shown this type of behavior, of that volatile, that explosiveness. And so one thing that, again, I find psychologically fascinating, but also sad for both parties, and by both parties, you know, if we're talking specifically here, I find it sad that Johnny has to go through this in a normal situation, you know, or dealing with other people, whoever I consider to be in that, the victim, and then whoever is the person who is that empty or is dealing with that mental issue, that they're so affected by that's their perception, because I just think that that's really unfortunate. Whatever life circumstances have led up to that is the belief that they have formed, right? That they are triggered by, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm going to be this or that it's that fight or flight or that kind of thing, right? That just, I'm just like, wow, that has to be such an empty, horrifying feeling, right? And I feel like at times in my life I've had that kind of a same feeling, not to this extent that they're talking about here. So I'm not gonna even sit here and be like, oh, well, I know what that feels like, because I can't, but I can kind of appreciate it, right? So yeah, I just think it's unfortunate all around.
What struck me was Ms. Raquel Pennington's testimony. She's a former friend of Ms. Heard's, and she told a story about, I suppose, they were shopping for Thanksgiving accoutrements, something to prepare for Thanksgiving, and Ms. Heard struck her in the face, sort of out of the blue, which is, I thought was interesting, because that is one of those signs of borderline personality disorder where...
Now, one thing I think is interesting is just watching her. She's doing these facial things, the dramatics and all this, and whatnot. And again, if you ask me, again, was I there? No, absolutely not. From what I've seen and heard of her, do I believe that Amber Heard would do that to somebody, that she would call a friend? Absolutely. 100% I do. Does that mean that's true because I believe it? No. You know what I'm saying? People that I have known in real life that have been like that have done stuff like that. Like, that's just how they are, right? That's just how they are. And again, this is the little behaviors that she's doing in court that I just feel like, yeah, it's not helping you. Like, just sit there with a flat face. Like, quit making these faces, right? And going from anger to confused to this to that. It's just adding to these diagnoses that they're talking about.
So, histrionic personality disorder, and these are really two sides of the same coin. They belong to the same cluster. We call these clusters. It's a way to organize personality disorders in that DSM. And this cluster is described as the personality disorders that are dramatic, erratic, and emotional. Okay, so unpredictable.
And see, exactly, this is what I'm talking about, and this is the vibe that I get. Now again, one thing that I also sit here and think, and this goes for both, in this particular case, Johnny and Amber, but I would think any actor, actresses, and stuff like that, I mean, these are going to be dramatic type people to begin with, right? I mean, they're actors and actresses, you know what I'm saying? I mean, even Johnny up on the stand is kind of dramatic, right? But there's like varying levels of this. And so just listening to their arguments where I'm like, oh my God. You know, I'm like, it's so exhausting, like the dramatics, right? Now, one thing that I think separates this is just like listening to where she just doesn't stop, right? And she admits to this, and how these are like everyday arguments. Other things that play with her with her is the whole dynamic of, you know, her sitting here, these pictures that she took and setting him up. That just, it has such a weird, gross vibe. But again, these disorders, these, you know, diagnoses that she's talking about, I mean, I think it's interesting, and I think it'll be interesting to see, you know, how this evidence holds up overall. And I do think it's interesting that she's talking about some of the other doctors, you know, findings with Ms. Heard, because again, you know, we'll get into this in a little bit, where these different, you know, psychologists that come in for each side, I mean, it is what it is, right? They're coming in to speak for each side, you know what I'm saying? So that is what it is, and they'll kind of go at it in a little bit. We'll talk about that when Amber's defense gets up there and cross-examines.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yes,
That
you
confused
did not
me.
disclose in any of the designations or in your report that you had dinner and drinks with Mr. Depp, correct?
I did not disclose that I was interviewed by the legal team, no.
I asked a different question. Are you trying to resist that you didn't have dinner with Mr. Depp and drinks?
I'm not trying to resist that, but it's not quite right.
You
What
did
you're
have dinner with
stating.
Mr. Depp, did you not?
I did, with
And
his
you had
legal
drinks
team
with
and
Mr. Depp,
Depp.
did you not?
And what?
You had drinks with Mr. Depp, did you not?
Drinks were served. This was over 2 years ago. I may have had a drink with dinner, yes,
In fact, you thought you had a mule something, right?
possibly.
Yes, okay.
Again, this is what I'm talking about. This right here. So first of all, this attorney, now, at the time of this recording, there's like probably 100 videos I could do just as attorney, with the makeup, all that, right? So, you know, just bear with me. We'll get to those in other videos, right? So, but this right here, obviously she is going to try and take this hardball type line, you know, like, you're not answering this, you're not doing this. So I'll say this, take the fame out of this. If this was a normal court case, and this was going on in one of these trials that we watched, yes, we would want to know that this person had met with, you know, and saying, you had dinner and drinks with Johnny Depp and his team, with so-and-so and his team. We would want to know that, 100%, right? So, yes, I personally would want to know that. We watch enough of these, I watch enough of these, that I know the drill. You know what I'm saying? I know how much to take this kind of testimony. It's almost like a grain of salt, right? I mean, it's good commentary and that kind of stuff, but at the same time, you know, I know what I'm signing up for when I listen to it, although it does seem to be pretty accurate in this case. Anyways, but going all down this line of like, oh, you didn't say this, you didn't say that, and you're trying to resist. I mean, I just feel like the attorney is really grabbing at straws, and all of the other stuff that she's done to kind of make an ass out of herself, I'm just like, yeah, this is just, it's not really going well for her either, right? And so I get what the attorney, or the doctor is saying, because I also would expect this out of that, where it's like, yeah, they're going to be vetting you out. These are major celebrities. Whether we like it or not, they have the money and power to come at these court systems with that kind of influence, right? Does that mean I agree with this? No, but it is what it is, and you just have to call it out. So the testimony will get even more turned up, though, so let's keep watching.
And you didn't disclose that you had met with Mr. Depp, Mr. Waldman, Mr. Chu, and Ms. Vasquez at Mr. Depp's house for 3 to 4 hours and had dinner and drinks, correct?
I did not disclose that. It's not significant to the report.
Again, yes, we want to know this. The attorney is trying to make it out like it's a gotcha moment. That's the word I'm looking for. She tries to make it out like a, we gotcha. Now, she had come up with some evidence talking about this doctor had met with Johnny Depp privately in his bedroom. Okay, that would be like a, well, hold on, girl. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, of course she's going to do that. Number one, they're paying her. I mean, we get this, right? And I understand that it's the attorney's job to call that out, right? So this is all kind of like just a moot point to me at this point.
You don't think that's significant, correct?
I don't.
Okay. But you've never been asked to meet with a client in his counsel before being retained as an expert, either before or after, have you?
No.
Again, yes, of course, the attorney, I will agree with her on this. No, the doctor's not going to think this is abnormal. And we'll hear the doctor say that she deals with a lot of celebrities. And yeah, I would not expect a normal Joe Schmo to be asked to do this, right? You're talking about mega famous people here, mostly mega famous Johnny Depp. So again, is it right, wrong, or indifferent? Doesn't matter. It's just unfortunately the way that the court system works here in America.
And you justified that it was okay in this case because it was a high-profile case.
That's not quite right. I justified it in this case. Actually, I sought consultation about it. First of all, the person who had retained his attorneys was unable to come to my office with his attorneys. And yes, this is a very visible case. It's been going on a very long time. And I understood that there would be a need to interview me and make an informed decision about my qualifications.
Now, when she lays it out like that, to me, I'm just like, yes, this makes sense, right? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. This reminds me so much when this whole thing right here, and it depends on the vibe of the situation. But if you remember the staircase, the Michael Peterson situation, and side note, I'm recording this hours before I leave for CrimeCon 2022 in Las Vegas. And Michael Peterson's former lawyer is going to be there, as well as the Michael Peterson's expert analysis guy, blood spatter guy, who they hired to come in. And this so reminds me of that because I disagreed with him. And he's very well known in the industry, right? And I mean, of course, I'm nobody, right? But I didn't agree. I just felt like he was paid for in that scenario. That's just my opinion, and I'm not a professional to really make that opinion. So that's just me watching a lot of documentaries and not agreeing with it. Anyways, but it always makes me think of that scenario, right? And so when she's talking about this, I'm just like, well, yeah, I mean, again, I'm just like, this is, you know, uber wealthy Hollywood people, right? They are going to want to meet this person, you know, like they want to see who is this, what are the credentials, what's the vibe, yada, yada. So again, this just does not even stand out as odd to me for this particular instance.
That's essentially bring you into court if you're going to say that Ms. Heard is right and Mr. Depp is wrong, correct?
So as a forensic psychologist, my obligation is to the court, is to the fact finder. I present science regardless of what that science may be. Now, when I take a case, my retainer agreement is explicit about that, and I discuss that with the attorneys.
I'm asking you a question. I'd like you to try to answer my question. You understand that if you found favorably to Ms. Heard and negatively to Mr. Depp, you wouldn't be here, right? You wouldn't be testifying.
Objection speculative.
No, okay, sorry.
Hold on. The objection is speculation.
That's not speculation.
No, I'll sustain the objection if you want to ask.
Okay. if it goes to bias, Your Honor.
I sustain the objection. Next question.
Okay, all right.
Couple of things. First of all, the fact that she wants to correct the judge, right? This just speaks volumes. I'm like, really? Move it along, right? Secondly, I just felt like she was answering the question, right? She was answering the question for her, but she wanted to take it that extra level. And granted, mind you, she was answering it long-windedly. But I mean, yeah, if she had come up with something that didn't negatively, or that, portrayed the opposite, then she wouldn't be there. I can probably, without doubt, tell you that you could have hired 100 different experts to come in there, and every damn last one of them would have probably come up with the same damn analysis on Amber Heard, right? Their machine would have melted down after her damn exam.
You were, in fact, so excited about being involved in this case that you told your husband, even though this was a highly confidential matter, that you were going to be conducting the examination of Ms. Heard, didn't you?
That is not accurate.
You not only told your husband, but you told Ms. Heard that you told your husband, correct?
Ms. Bredehoff, that is not accurate.
What is accurate?
Oh my God. This right here, and once we get into it and you see, again, it's this I gotcha. And then when she tries to lay out what her I gotcha moment is, this is how, to me, attorneys lose credibility, right? When they try this stuff and it just falls flat and makes them look not only stupid, but not credible.
You're incorrect. That is not correct.
Is your testimony today under oath that you did not tell your husband that you were going to be conducting the examination of Amber?
That is my testimony.
I love how confident she is with that.
Let's go to page 306.
Let's just go to page 306. Thank you very damn much.
So the question that was asked was because you brought muffins, you said, from your husband, right? You gave those to Ms. Heard, correct?
May I clarify what occurred so that we can stop talking about the muffins?
I just love it. You know what this reminds me of is Shrek. Not my gumdrop buttons. It's like, she's like, not the muffins. Not the muffin conversation again. I mean, I was just like, and once we get into the muffin conversation, I'm like, that's what you were trying. That is what you were walking us all around. Like, she really thought she did something. And I'm like, no. Amber's over there, like, probably made 500 different facial expressions over these damn muffins. And I'm like, girl, this is not the hill to die on for this case, right? This was the wrong hill to pick.
What happened was that I was getting ready that morning. I frequently bring muffins to the office. My husband did happen to know that there was going to be a celebrity client coming in because on the mornings that occurs, which often occurs, we have to actually clear the office and move the staff to the other office. So yes, on the one hand, he was aware of that. I was getting ready. I asked him to go to the bakery near our house and pick up the muffins for me because I was running late. He often has to do that because I often do run late. He brought the muffins back to the house. I brought them into the office. Ms. Heard and I enjoyed the muffins together. I think I made a comment to her along the lines like, we can thank my husband. My husband got these for us today, meaning he purchased the muffins. We are now enjoying them because of him.
I mean, y'all, when I heard this, I was like, serious. I mean, I can see exactly how this would go down, and the fact that the attorney is trying to use this is like this. Now, granted, again, great job trying to dot I's and cross T's, right? I mean, great, try everything you can. I get it, but it's like one of those things where it just makes me embarrassed for them, right? It just makes me embarrassed for them, and that's all I can say.
So, why did your husband get the muffins for Amber Heard?
He did not get the muffins for Amber Heard.
I mean, it really is like laughable at this point. I mean, it's like people in the courtroom are laughing. It's like, girl, just move on from the damn muffins, okay? This is not, the judge is not going to jump up and like throw her damn gavel down and case closed. Everyone goes home a winner. It's not what is going to happen. Let's just quietly mosey over the train wreck.
He knew you had a high-profile client, and you were preparing for a very long time, and you asked him to pick up the muffins, correct?
I asked him to pick up the muffins for me, yes.
Okay.
I mean, it still goes on. It still goes on. I mean, it's too much. So what we're going to do now is let's listen to some clips, and then as we listen to them, let's also go back to some other clips from audio, things of that nature, to kind of like do a little matching game. Like, you know, some of those tests you used to take where you had to match definitions and terms. Let's just kind of do that, but with video clips. Okay.
Now, would you agree that domestic abuse can be verbal?
Absolutely, yes.
Because you start.
You are such a baby! Grow the fuck up,
Because you
Johnny!
start physical fights.
Would you agree that domestic abuse can be emotional?
Yes, certainly.
5 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms I went to.
To avoid talking to me, to
To
avoid
escape
working it out. That's
to
the
escape
problem.
the fight.
You don't escape the fight. You escape the solution.
No.
You escape the solution.
No.
You escape figuring it out. We cannot work it out if you run away to the bathroom every time.
Listen to me.
Would you agree that domestic abuse can be psychological?
Yes.
The argument just keeps mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting. I fucking go to into the bathroom and sit on the floor. Bam, 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 here you come. I come out. Fight, crazy, escalated. I go split again, I go to another fucking bathroom or a bedroom or something. Knock, 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 bang, bang, bang. You kept coming to get me.
Would you agree that domestic abuse can be physical?
Yes.
And I watched you lie, and then
I didn't punch you,
and
by
then
the way. I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Oh my God. I mean, it's literally, I mean, when I'm watching this and like piecing this together, I'm just like, yeah, you know, and that's why I was just like, I think you could get a numerous people to like put this kind of stuff together, and, you know, like professionals, obviously, and come to the same conclusions. I mean, this was a toxic relationship.
Now, let's talk about the treatment records that you said that you reviewed. But I'm going to start with Rocky Pennington. Your testimony was that out of the blue, Amber hit Rocky Pennington, correct?
I can't remember exactly what I said, but I did reference Ms. Pennington's deposition that Ms. Heard struck Ms. Pennington in the face.
In
Yes.
fact, Ms. Pennington testified that she hit Ms. Heard. And in response to that, she can't recall, but Ms. Heard either pushed or slapped her, correct?
So remember earlier where we had the whole thing about the Amber Heard just randomly, you know, punched or slapped her friend or whatever. Here's my whole thing. I'm like, why is Amber in all these situations where she's constantly having squabbles and hitting people? And she's always seemingly having to say that she's defending herself. This is not normal. Okay? This is not normal. Like, this does not happen to everybody, right? So why is this the case? Why does she always have a defense for, well, I had to, he opened the door, so I had to push him. Wait, they did this and I had to. Why? That is completely abnormal and completely not true.
I don't recall.
That's a pretty important distinction, don't you think?
My recollection is that there was some sort of violence both ways in the relationship. Either way, it seemed that both of them might have been unstable. I'm only evaluating Ms. Heard.
So now we have an evaluation of Rocky Pennington?
No, I just said, but that was not relevant to my opinion because I'm only evaluating Ms. Heard.
But you
Notice how the attorney is so stuck on the narrative of wanting to say one thing. It's like she doesn't even listen to what is saying. And that, again, the credibility of this legal team, specifically her in this clip we're talking about, it just keeps going out the window.
testified to that on direct, that was a factor, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, wouldn't it make a big difference if Amber struck first or just responded back?
Given the dynamic, not necessarily. No, it would not have.
So now you're an expert on Rocky Pennington and her dynamics with Amber Heard. I'll withdraw.
Again, it's almost like this attorney has gone to a little can of like go-tos, like, here's some canned responses. We learned these in law school. But they don't match the scenario going on where it's like, they actually have to kind of match. And if they do, then it's like a great gotcha moment, but they're not coinciding with what's going on in the courtroom. There's a disconnect. Everyone sees it except for you.
Okay, so now let's talk about Dr. Cowan. You not only reviewed his treatment records and his text messages and documents, but you also attended his deposition, did you not?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall Dr. Cowan testifying that Amber told him about Depp physically abusing her contemporaneous with the events?
I don't recall specifically his words, but I remember him recalling that she had disclosed abuse in their treatment, yes.
And do you recall Dr. Cowan testifying that he received a text message contemporaneous that Johnny did a number on me tonight. I'm safe in my support tonight, but I need some real help. Do you remember him testifying to that?
I don't remember the testimony, but I do remember seeing that text message as one of the exhibits.
Again, very interesting how she says, you know, she said that, Amber said that. I mean, people can send these text messages all they want. We've seen all this other evidence where I'm just like, she probably set stuff up. I mean, the level that we know she was setting stuff up to make him look like this crazed person with video recordings and pictures and this and that. So I wouldn't believe any of those texts. He really did a number on me tonight. Really, again, this flies in the face of real abuse victims. This is what gets me with people like this. They want to go and do this kind of stuff for their own personal gain, whatever it might be. I don't know. But it flies in the face of people whose voices go unheard, for people whose truth goes unheard, oftentimes because of people like this.
Okay. Do you recall Dr. Cowan testifying that he believed the relationship was toxic and he was concerned for Amber's physical well-being?
I do recall him saying that he believed the relationship was toxic.
And you don't recall
I do
Dr.
not.
Cowan saying that he was concerned for Amber's physical well-being?
I don't remember those exact words.
Do you recall Dr. Cowan testifying in that deposition that you were present for, referring to Mr. Depp, quote, his controlling nature, jealousy and suspiciousness, addiction to drugs and alcohol, and violent and indulgent temper? Do you recall him using those terms to describe Mr. Depp?
I remember thinking that would be an inappropriate impression for a treating provider of a different person to give.
So what I thought was interesting in this is that what the attorney is doing is what she just accused the doctor of doing. Oh, I guess you're an expert on so-and-so. And it's like, but now you're taking somebody else's testimony about Mr. Depp. You know, you see where I'm going with all this? And so I'm just like, that's interesting. Regardless if it's true. You know, I'm just like, it's no secret that Johnny, you know, definitely likes the substances and whatnot. You know, I just, the cross-examination with this attorney just honestly was like fire ants.
Okay. And do you also recall him saying that she didn't say she pushed him, she just said, I got right back up. She told me that he pushed her down and she got right back up.
I remember him saying that Ms. Heard told him that, yes.
And again, ending on that note there, I remember him saying Ms. Heard told him that. There's a whole bunch of that going on. Somebody can sit here and cry me a river all day long, and when you start taking all of a story and all of this different, you know, evidence and all this type of stuff and putting it all together, and it just, something doesn't seem right? And that's what's coming to the surface with this case. And again, you know, I'll just say in closing that I just think it's disgusting how you sit here and look at this scenarios like this, and again, we don't know, and this is just my opinion. I didn't know these people personally. I don't know, you know, what the truth was. Only these two people do, right? But from the looks from the damn sofa, it looks like she was the abuser in this situation, right? This is not to say that they are both angels, or that Johnny is some angel and that, you know, he was this perfect little person. None of us are, right? I get that. But the abuse that's being alleged, I just don't see it. I think that he is the one who was abused by her on multiple levels, right? And again, the short, tumultuous level of this relationship, just it's exhausting, to use their words. And again, I just think it's unfortunate for true victims of domestic abuse, true survivors of this kind of stuff, to have their stories diluted by people like this. So it'll be interesting to see what takes place. Again, if there's any specific parts, a lot of people ask me to talk about this specific part, like the doctor's testimony, and so that's what I wanted to do. If there's any other aspects that you want me to talk about this, drop it in the comments or send me an email like y'all did, and I'll look into it because it's definitely fascinating to me. The whole thing, I can't believe it's gone on this long, right? Again, my opinion still, I think he's going to win this case. I'm sure the countersuit will be very interesting. Honestly, I'm just like, I'm not sure what she thinks she's going to win. Maybe a Cracker Jack prize, but it ain't going to happen as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, thank you to everybody who makes the Sofa Squad possible. Once again, I greatly appreciate all of you. And until we gather around this damn sofa again with my damn sidekick, that is it. And I will see all of you very soon.